Hello, chameleon wranglers. I think it's about time that I introduce you to Blue. Blue is an adult male yellow-lipped Parson's chameleon. And right now, Blue is still in his brumation. And this is something that Parson's chameleons do during the cooler, dry season. And they eventually acclimate to our seasons in the Northern Hemisphere. And so he's not going to be running around much. During brumation, they just stay in one spot. Their eyes will be open. Sometimes they eat, but most of the times they don't. And but he'll be happy to stay here and say hello to you. Blue came to me about 7 years ago. And he was an old Parson's chameleon when he came to me. And for the first couple of years, he seemed to be touch and go there. And I was thinking, oh no, what could be wrong? The vets couldn't find anything. But then eventually he just snapped out of it and has been healthy ever since. And I still don't know what happened. Now, wonderful thing about Parson's chameleons, they are large and they are wonderful. They are truly wonderful. They have the reputation of being the king of the chameleons, and for good reason. They are majestic, especially when they're given the proper size enclosure. I usually like to have walk-in enclosures for Blue. I've had to move a number of times, and so I am working on building his next walk-in enclosure. But that is how you truly enjoy Parson's chameleons, when they are in a large enclosure and they're not just in a small minimum size enclosure, essentially wrapping a cage around a chameleon. Now, they don't move around much, so although they will explore as big of a cage as you provide to them, once they're happy, they sometimes will just settle in. Now, everything about them is big. They are a big chameleon, they need a big cage, and they eat bigger food. But here's where you may not expect. They don't need huge food. They will eat regular sized locusts, regular sized dubia, and so feeding them really isn't the big issue. The most important thing with a Parson's chameleon is just the size of the cage. And so if you're interested in getting a Parson's chameleon, that's what to look for. What kind of footprint do you have? How tall of a cage can you make it? And especially with Parson's chameleons, the bigger, the better. And with Parson's chameleons, bigger is necessary. Parson's chameleons are legally exported from Madagascar, and they are readily available. Now, they are very expensive, and I like it that way. Their being expensive means that the breeders of Parsoni, who have to invest an enormous amount right in the beginning in infrastructure, they can do their job right. In panther chameleons and veiled chameleons, we always have this debate, is cohabitation okay? Well, with Parson's chameleons, they don't even bother, as far as I know. I mean, I haven't talked to all Parson's chameleon breeders, but when you can sell a baby for $1,000, springing for a separate cage for each baby so the babies can grow up without stress is not a big deal. Yeah, I mean, there's space. That's always a big deal. But cost-wise, no. You want this baby to grow up in perfect condition, and that's because it's profitable. So I know we keep hearing, oh, they're just in it for the profit. Profit is not a bad thing. Profit means that the breeding program will be maintained and will continue. Where are you going? Are you gonna? And when a breeding program is profitable, those profits are folded back into the infrastructure, into the care, into the nutrition. And so profit makes sure that there is a healthy environment. Now, I completely understand if somebody truly is in it for the profit, then they may just take that profit and put it elsewhere and not into the infrastructure. But that is not a long-term a recipe for success, not with chameleons. Chameleons are a real difficult way to get profit. And the people who are profiting from Parson's chameleons right now have invested many tens of thousands of dollars to get to this point. So I do not begrudge them their profit one bit. And I'm glad, because Parson's chameleons, if they get a sniffle, they go to the vet. Veiled chameleon, someone buys a veiled chameleon for $25 and doesn't want to go to the vet for $150. So that veiled chameleon isn't getting taken as good as care of as a Parson's chameleon, even though they are both lives that we take that we have taken on, and they are both of equal value on the scale of us all being living beings here on Earth. So I am happy that they are as expensive as they are. They may come down in price a little bit because we're getting so good at breeding them. And I just hope it doesn't go too far, because if everybody gets a Parson's chameleon and then they become commonplace, their value goes down. Now, if you are interested in getting involved in breeding Parson's chameleons, the good news is that we've kind of figured it out. The incubation used to be a huge problem for us, but we figured out with 2 diapauses, which, by the way, doesn't make any sense. I don't know why we're doing 2 diapauses, but so be it. And then we can reliably hatch Parson's chameleons. And so I think you're going to see a whole lot more Parson's chameleons in the future, captive, hatched. And this is incredible news, because, like I say, imports will not be around forever. And I am greatly encouraged that Parson's chameleons will not be one of the species that we lose forever when imports stop. So Blue is getting a little bit, he's not so happy being here. And I don't blame him. I mean, he didn't ask to be on film. So I'm going to go ahead and put him back in his enclosure, and I can continue talking. We'll just put videos of him. He's a wonderful chameleon, eats out of my hand, and he has just been with me for a lot of life changes. And so let me tell you, you get attached to Parson's chameleons. They are wonderful. All right, I'm back here in the studio, and Blue is nicely tucked into his enclosure and is going to resume his brumation. Now, let's talk about the future of Parson's chameleons in captivity. As I said, the good news is that we've figured out how to reliably reproduce them, and a number of breeders are doing that. And every year or two, another breeder says they've had success. So this is a great sign. Now, the one caveat to this, to where we can't necessarily have too much of a party just yet, is that there are a number of different locales of Parson's chameleons. Now, we don't call them locales. We call them by their physical characteristics. And it's like a yellow lip, orange eye, green giant, yellow giant. And there's actually 2 subspecies. Parsonii is what we normally think of, but then there's a Parsonii Christopher, which is a smaller version of the Parson's chameleon. And these need to be kept separate. So even though we have a lot of Parson's chameleon breeders, I do not know what the spread of all these different Parson's chameleon types are across the United States or in Europe. So we may have 10 different Parson chameleon breeders, but if they're spread across 4 or 5 different Parson's chameleon types, you can see how we're spread a lot more thin than we thought. Now, Parson's chameleon breeders tend to be secretive, and for good reason, and so I do not know how many are actually out there. I know there's a lot of Parson's chameleon breeders that aren't actively showing what they've got on social media, so it's more of a behind-the-scenes things. It may be that we have enough bloodlines of Parson's chameleons of the different types to fuel us genetically for the next couple decades. This is a distinct possibility. And so all I'm saying here is we need to be careful that we consider each one of these Parson's chameleon types as a distinct, I won't say species, but it's a distinct breeding project. So I would say Parson's chameleons, even though we can't claim ultimate victory because we have them firmly established in captivity, I would say that they may actually be a whole lot more established than we know. And it's an encouraging accomplishment of the chameleon community that this is so. If you want to get involved with Parson's chameleons, and who doesn't, but if you're serious enough and you have the space and the means to have Parson's chameleons, my advice to you would be don't cut corners. Make sure that you can keep them in a large enough enclosure that it's worth keeping them. Keeping a carpet chameleon in a 2x2 by 4 foot tall cage is better than keeping a Parsons in a 2x2 by 4 foot tall cage. It's just the quality of life. I encourage you to be excellent at what you do, not barely making it for something that's a status chameleon. Being involved with Parson's chameleons, especially breeding Parson's chameleons, is a huge undertaking. So if you got this idea that, hey, I'm going to breed Parson's chameleons, going to make a lot of money, make sure you really understand chameleon breeding before you go forward on that plan. I would strongly suggest start off with one as a pet and absolutely spoil it. Give it a huge enclosure. Get your experience with a Parson's chameleon in a huge enclosure with all of your resources and attention on that one chameleon. Once you have a year or two of that under your belt, you will know what you're getting into. Now, of course, nobody can truly be ready for going from 2 chameleons to 20 to 40 to sometimes more than that. But at least you know the kind of care that you have to multiply times and figure out how to take care of that many babies. And as much as I talk about wanting to establish more species in captivity, a number of people have done an excellent job with doing that with Parson's chameleons. So the good news is they'll be around for a while. You have time. Take that time to research and get to know the people who are very experienced with Parson's chameleons. I don't know that we still have a whole lot of mentorship in the reptile community like we did before, but at least there's a lot of information. And for the ones that are on social media, you can watch them and get a feel for what they're doing by social media. A lot of questionable things come from social media, but one of the huge advantages is that you don't have to go through the process of proving yourself and getting the trust of somebody who is experienced. You can at least glean off of what they do on social media. Now, to be sure, you're not going to get the inside sauce and the inside secrets. But once you prove yourself by going through the first couple of steps that you can get through by watching on social media, then you can prove yourself and you can graduate to the next step of trust within the community. And make no mistake, the Parson's Chameleon community is a tight-knit community as well as a well-guarded community. So, learn the lessons from the chameleon, be patient, and treat your Parson's Chameleon project as if it's a very long-term project. Like I said, don't worry, they'll be around. You have time. I hope you enjoyed meeting Blue. And from time to time, I'm going to spotlight some of the other chameleons that hang out at the Chameleon Academy. I'd like to remind you that you can support this channel by using the coupon code Chameleon10 at thebiodude.com, and it gets you 10% off of the cart, so it's a win-win-win. And if you're interested in a high-end chameleon enclosure, have the Arboreal series at Custom Reptile Habitats. That is a Chameleon Academy branded, and these enclosures were designed by me. And if you have any questions about them or how to set them up, you can contact me and I'd be happy to talk you through it. And if you enjoyed this video, the good news is that this is actually a daily vlog. So you can come back every single day at 5 a.m. Pacific, and there is a vlog just like this talking about some aspect of the chameleon community. And if you enjoyed this, you can just go to the playlist that's going to be on the end screen, and you can go back to vlog 1 and just start at the beginning. It's all a story of what I go through being a chameleon keeper and creating content and such for the Chameleon Academy. They all form a story, and so you can go back to vlog number 1 and follow my adventures and misadventures from that point. And if you have questions or you just want to get to know the Chameleon community, I have live sessions three times a week that you can come, you can meet me, you can ask questions, you can meet everybody else in the Chameleon community. We have a great group of people that come to these live sessions and hang out in the chat. Live sessions are Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific here on YouTube, Saturday, 12 noon Pacific here on YouTube, and Sunday nights becoming a live session as well. That used to be Chameleon Chore Night at 5 p.m. Pacific. But so many people kept coming on and having a great time that I ended up not making a whole lot of progress in my chores. I used to make fruit fly cultures, but last week I just talked all the entire time. So sometimes we have a little bit more fun than chores getting done. And you are welcome to come. It's a great group of people, very welcoming, and we could always use another chameleon enthusiast joining in. And so, please, take care of yourself, be excellent to each other, and I'll see you next time.